October 2007 was a great year that would have changed my entire life for good. But it turned out to be the worst year in my entire life. Have you ever planned and made anticipations for great things to happen to your life? And all of a sudden, rather than blessings, everything came crashing and shattering on you so much that you only thought afterwards that uh, the possible way out is suicide. Yeah, that's what I contemplated at the scariest moments of my life. Growing up was a tough experience, having come from a poor home where I had to struggle to see myself through schools. I was one of those lucky kids who found a banking job with a first generation bank and rose rapidly in ranks. With all the excitement of breaking out from the poor family backgrounds to seeing wealth gradually being built, it became necessary to settle down really fast with a partner who could be a guide through life with me. Everything turned out to be the opposite of what I wanted. It all started with losing my wife and baby to the cold hands of death. Just a few weeks after our white wedding, this became the beginning of an unimaginable challenge for my life that lasted for more than a decade. I became a widow at a very tender age. From that time on, everything, and I mean everything I got into, came falling like a pack of bread. Night after night were filled with nightmares. Close and distant friends, as well as acquaintances, avoided me because of sad stories and tales that were told about the sudden demise of my wife and baby. At some point, I began to get scared of myself because these stories, even though were not true, was too loud a sound in my ears and it began to horrify me. I had to change my employment, including my employment location, but like a sheet stain on a white clothing, everywhere I went to was followed with earlocks. Soon enough, I lost my job. I got into a relationship after being reminded by my family members as well as my in-laws to remarry again. But the lady ran away with the speed of light after tales of fears were leaked to her. For 9 solid years, I got involved in a few affairs for marriages which never worked. Some of the ladies would either run away or I would be the one to run away. Everything I wanted to do would probably start well, and before I knew it, it's all gone wrong again. During these times, I got a new job and later resigned because I wasn't pleased with the work environment. It was all pressures from every nook and cranny that I just didn't understand. So I started my own business, hoping that will change everything, especially my finances. All of my investments still came crashing down on me. It's either a wrong investment or a fraud against me, even by the closest friends I knew and respected. I could see my whole life was in shambles, and all of a sudden I became an alcoholic and I smoked all kinds of smokables. People's rejection of me came heavily as friends and acquaintances distanced themselves from me. It was a world all alone for me. Those who cared enough would call and ask me to see a prophet or a pastor or an imam. And when I go to these places, the little I have in my pockets, I just spend them with no result in sight. I totally saw myself disenchanted from the real human environment because I didn't just know what was wrong with me. How can I start something and all of a sudden it's all gone bad? I remember it was a time I had just started my real estate business, and all of a sudden again, it came with another massive attack that almost took me to jail. In fact, I had related my experience to the village head where I had lost my investment to some fraudsters, only for him to call me out in public. That was in one of the village meetings they had. And in that meeting, he told me to go back to my village and seek redress on my issues because he felt I was being spiritually haunted. Now, getting married again, which was one of the things I loved the most, having a partner was even scarier as I didn't know what was wrong with me. So I devised the means. My wife today was married secretly without the knowledge of anyone, including my parents, siblings, close friends, or relatives, except one friend and some people I didn't know at all. In fact, my family and friends only got to know I was married after the birth of my first son. Now, the birth of my son, my first son, in its own was entirely another drama. That Saturday, my wife was in labor for 3 days, and the doctors finally asked me to come and sign off for a cesarean session. Dr. John, who did the work at the time, didn't know me closely. So when he told me about signing up, I looked at him with disgust and reluctantly agreed, even though it was with fear. As soon as I signed up, I took off from the hospital into an uncompleted building where I started praying. Soon enough, my phone began to ring, and I looked at the phone with this fear. God, why this call? I hope it's something good. But right inside me, it was all fear. Now the call came from her best friend, Joanne, whom I left with her to follow her to the theater. With fear, I summoned the courage to pick the call, and then the voice came screaming, Uncle Tim, where are you? My response was, what is it? With my hands shaking and my heart beating really fast. She said, your boy is here. Come and see him. I ran inside with a request to see my wife, which was the first thing. And behold, both of them were in great condition. But that wasn't all yet. At this point, I was totally broke. I was barely surviving with my newfound love. And behold, we got a child born through CS, bills to pay. I needed to feed our family. Of course, my new family, lots of responsibilities came piling up. From rent to feeding to taking care of the other dependents and more. My sources of income were in cuts. Every day was one arrest or the other from my clients who invested in my real estate business where I had just been defrauded. I decided to put my only car up for sale, but no one was ready to buy it. And then one day I made a decision to start all over again, not minding what the voices in my head were saying. I had a burning desire for a change. And that was the breaking of the ice. So I sat down and decided to write down a few things that I needed to change in my life first. One of those things, which was really important at the time, was my finances. But for me to achieve this, I needed also to change myself. I needed a new habit. And this is what I did. I started first by accepting the fact that to acquire financial wealth, I must be willing to subject myself to learning from the greats. And then be disciplined enough to follow the steps and take massive actions, like one of my coaches would always say. So I began to read books, attend online classes with some of the great coaches in areas of financial freedom, business development, marketing, sales, and lots. As soon as I got engaged in these areas of life, guess what? Opportunities began to rear its head, and I went on to grasp the few I could handle. Before I knew it, my finances began to take a whole new shape again. And then I moved from my former apartment to a better place where I stay today. Now I could pay my rent for both the office and home where I live without having to think twice. I acquired a new property for my clients who had been on my head, a massive land, where of course you will see shortly. I began to pay school fees without stress. We could now eat what we want and wear what we prefer to wear. We were blessed with a beautiful daughter afterwards, and of course, a new car. Many, many good things began to happen to us as a family because my wife saw my vision and held to it. Today, it will be stupid not to appreciate God in how He works in mysterious ways, but also to understand that we need some level of disciplines in our lives. My case was not actually as bad as I thought. It was only orchestrated because of how I positioned my mind. All I needed was simply a personal discipline to do the things that could change my fortunes, which I never did then. I needed to start reading more. I needed to attend more online coaching classes with great coaches in choosing areas of expertise that I wanted, like financial freedom, business development, marketing, and sales. I also needed to go out and speak to people about my areas of service. That was all that I needed to do. Not thinking that my life was spiritually at war with some unknown giants. Not thinking that every news that must come to me must be a bad one. Not engaging in things that wouldn't bring progress to my life. Not sitting there and waiting for the magic prophet or whoever to make things happen to me. No. I needed simply to change my thinking first, and that was it. The truth is this: events happen, challenges come, pains, failures, disappointments, frustrations, just name it, because we are humans. But what is most important is your burning desire to bring change to your life when you're faced with these things. How you react to these challenges also has a great impact on your life. The most interesting thing is that every day that we wake up on that bed, opportunities are staring at us in the face. It takes a disciplined and focused mind to identify it and follow through to a logical conclusion. It doesn't matter if you are talented or not. It doesn't matter if you are educated or not. Not even your age, your sex, color, or tribe matters at all. What matters most, and importantly matters here, is you. So are you willing to bring that change? Now, I have a little secret I call a formula for anyone willing to bring that kind of change. It's a very straight and simple approach. You don't have to read all the abracadabras and all of that. I call it the 10 areas of work for a change. It starts with number one, clearly identifying your pain points, those things you worry about. Number two, developing a burning desire to change those pain points for good. Number three, clearly identifying the specific areas of change. Number four, set the goals in these areas and be specific about it. Number five, itemize the things to change in you to be able to achieve those goals. Number six, start taking actions, and I mean massive actions. Number seven, embrace discipline as you take those actions. Number eight, develop self-confidence in yourself and be courageous in anything you do. Number nine, be patient for results. Number 10, never cease even when the results begin to pour in. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.